Honey, why do you call him Drop Dead Fred?
Because that's his name, Daddy.
Like many small children, Lizzie had an imaginary playmate.
Drop Dead Fred is going to teach me how to cook today.
Someone she could talk to.
Sugar?
Yeah.
Someone she could share with.
Oh, Grandma Bun!
Someone who would never let her down.
No more Drop Dead Fred. Period.
Now Lizzie is all grown up.
To us.
And when her perfect life fell apart,
Charles, I lost my money, my car, my husband.
she didn't get mad.
Drop Dead Fred.
She got Fred.
What, who dropped dead?
Drop Dead Fred is this imaginary friend that I had as a child, and he's back.
Everybody has strange friends, even you must.
But all mine are alive.
That's not saying much. It's no wonder Charles left you.
Haven't got a husband, got a stupid haircut.
You see, you just don't know how to make a marriage work.
Well, let's get Charles back then. I'll help you.
Let's just behave ourselves. Get up.
No, Pandit.
He's back
Yeah, well, what's wrong with that?
Nothing, except you're ruining my life.
to show her no matter how bad things look now,
Peekaboo.
they can always get infinitely worse.
Drop Dead Fred was way out of control.
Have I got him?
You're dead, little man.
There's nobody there.
It's because he's invisible. Idiot. I don't want an imaginary friend anymore.
Right, that's it. I hate you.
Ow!
Goodbye forever.
Drop Dead Fred.
Ugh, what does that taste like?
Every child should have one, especially when she grows up.
Oh wow, we are back with yet another edition of Grindhouse Chic. This week, just me and Matt. We don't. Our third chair is not filled. We could not get someone because everybody sucks, except for us two and the people who watch this show. Matt, how's your week been going?
Not too bad. Not too bad. It's getting cold again in Ohio. We got another little blizzard last night.
We got one on Friday night in DC. It went from being 60 degrees to snow falling and me having to scrape my car off this morning and realizing since I got my new car, I left my scraper in the old one, which means I need to go buy one next year when winter happens again.
You know what the worst thing is, though, is you don't think about it and you go to like a drive-in or a drive-through to get a coffee or food and you get up to the window and you go to roll your window down and it's frozen and you're like, fuck, what do I do? So you got to be that person that's like inching up, opening their door a crack to try and speak to someone. That happened to me yesterday.
About 5 years ago, my old car, the driver's side window stopped rolling down and I was that guy for a while until I got it fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks really bad when you're that person.
Yeah. Understandable though.
I will say it is. I will say though, yesterday being snowy all day, it gave me a reason to stay inside and watch movies all day.
Yeah. Yep.
Including the one we'll be talking about, Drop Dead Fred. A lot of controversy on this one.
I know, and I feel like I created some with myself also, so I'm interested to see what you have to say about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it, but I want to talk about something first. I was watching a video from Dead Pit, which is a great channel on YouTube. They have a great podcast, even though they are from Kentucky. Yes, I'm throwing shade at Kentucky, and they were talking about the Thriller debacle. I think we can call it a debacle by now, right?
Seems like it.
So in various emails that Vinegar Syndrome has sent out, they have been throwing shade at Synapse for releasing it. The guys last night on Dead Pit basically said that they had no problem with it, and they thought, and I'm paraphrasing here because I might have had too much weed in my system when I was watching it, that paraphrase it that they thought Vinegar Syndrome was acting like babies.
Yeah.
And they're excited to compare the two, but they seem to be on a more pro-synapse. They seem to be more pro-synapse than Vinegar Syndrome. And you know what? I don't care who has the rights, just as long as whoever releases it has the rights and they put out a phenomenal product.
Right. Is one of them 4K and one isn't, or are they both?
The one coming out from Vinegar Syndrome is a brand new master.
Okay.
The one from Synapse is the one they did 20 years ago. Though
Okay.
for some reason, I don't think the discs, it's DVD. It might have been 20 years. All I know is I still have both versions of the DVD. And one has, they call her one-eye version has never been opened.
What is that? What's the difference there?
The hardcore scenes are cut out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's not aware.
So I take it you've never seen. Have you seen Thriller?
I haven't, no. So I don't, I obviously don't know what the one-eyed version is. But no, I've never seen it. Is it 70s or 80s?
It's 70s.
70s.
And I'm just going to say it is not a good movie.
No.
There are a lot of people arguing over a movie that has a cult reputation. I'm pretty sure it's just for Christina Lindbergh because she is beautiful, but this movie is not good. It's boring. I think it's a boring movie, but
Well, yeah, and having not seen it, everything that I have seen between people in the groups and everything, it seems like it's getting a very positive reception. It seems like everyone's super excited about it, and I just assumed that it was a good movie that people were really rating for based on that.
I mean, we got to be honest with ourselves. We collect a lot of movies that aren't good.
Right.
I mean, Amityville, The Dollhouse. I don't know if that is not a good movie. It's About Time. I love that movie. Not a good movie. The Cellar. God knows, not a good movie.
Yeah, that one's still sealed. I haven't checked into that one yet.
No, I mean, yeah. Well, we collect. I mean, we as collectors, we embrace a lot of movies that are more interesting than good,
Right.
or they're so bad they're good. And in my opinion, I don't think Thriller even gets to that point. There are some cool scenes in it. It's not a good movie. But that said, what was the story you were telling me before we started recording?
Yeah, it was just it was like a 5-minute YouTube video, and I can't remember the name of the group who was doing it, but they apparently had some discussion with the guy over at Synapse who runs that. I can't think of his name, but
Don May.
Yes, Don May. And they were saying that he apparently spoke to the guys at Vinegar Syndrome and told them he was going to release it and when his time frame was and everything. And I guess they said that maybe he thought that the guys at Vinegar Syndrome thought that he was just joking or wasn't serious, but it ended up being released before Vinegar Syndrome's, and then the hate mail started after that. So it's
in context, this is not the first time it has happened. Who directed? I can't remember the woman who directed Terminal Island.
I don't know.
Stephanie something. Are you looking it up?
Yep, Stephanie Rothman.
So yep. Vinegar Syndrome has had the rights to all of the Stephanie Rothman films. Group Marriage, which is really good. A couple others whose names I don't remember. But Code Red had released those movies Working Girls. Code Red released those previously on DVD, and right after Vinegar Syndrome, or right the same time Vinegar Syndrome made their announcement, Code Red released them all on Blu-ray, which pushed Vinegar Syndrome's release of those movies back. I mean, we just got the first one last year. So in the past, Vinegar Syndrome has not released it. So because they knew they would not make as much money on it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're definitely, full steam ahead on this one, though.
Well, yeah, because this one is a new master, and unlike the Synapse version, it has the director's approval. He's involved with it. In fact, if I remember correctly, the director tried to sue or threatened to sue Synapse over their release, saying they did not have the rights to it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know all the ins and outs of like rights, but I have read that it's, you can have the rights for US only, UK only, so two companies can release something at the same time in different areas, or it can be a Blu-ray, a 4K, different kind of rights. So that's why I didn't know if they were both Blu-ray or if there was some kind of gray area there that they were both in the right here.
Well, I mean, rights are tricky. Like Arrow and Code Red both released Pit Stop at the same time. And then we know rights issues kept Django from Arrow from being released for over a year because Blue Underground said they had the rights to it. And Blood Harvest from Vinegar Syndrome, Bill Rebane, in his craziness, threatened to sue them because he said they did not have the rights to it.
Yeah, I feel like something just came up with was it like the new RoboCop 4K from Arrow? They can only release that. Yeah, it's either UK or US. I can't remember which one, but they didn't have the rights to do it in one of them.
Well, I mean, it's like with all the Universal Criterion movies. Universal just released Fast Times and Do the Right Thing on 4K, while Criterion just put them out on Blu-ray a few months earlier, which tells me at some point in the next year we're going to see Criterion 4Ks of those movies as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely tricky, and I'm kind of on. I don't know. I'm kind of on both sides of the fence where it's like, if it's true and Synapse doesn't have the rights, that's one thing, but I don't know if I agree with Vinegar Syndrome, like, throwing so much shade.
So I have no problem with it, especially if they think they've been wronged.
Right. Yeah.
And especially as it as it pertains to the Thriller disc. I got an email or saw a post on Facebook for the archive for them saying they had the Arrow version of Phenomena. I think they called it the better version of it.
Yeah. Yep.
So from what I understand, the Synapse and Arrow version are identical.
Really?
The only difference
that's another one that I forgot.
But no, it's just, I don't know. I think much like the brand Wendy's on Twitter, where they throw shade to McDonald's and all the burger places, I think Vinegar Syndrome has every right to throw shade at them.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it. I love the chaos. I love the chaos.
So it sounds like the war against Synapse has begun.
It's not even a war. It's protecting their rights. And by Synapse releasing that and Vinegar releasing it, they're both killing sales from each other. Sure, there's going to be the people who are going to buy both,
right?
Which is ridiculous. I don't know if you bought both, so I apologize if I offended you.
No, I don't think I have a single Synapse release.
Now, Synapse has done a lot of great releases. Their versions of Suspiria on Blu-ray and 4K, I think, are the definitive release of that film. Their 42nd Street trailer collections are amazing. Prom Night is good. Popcorn was great. Their version of Demons is just as good as Arrow's. So
I have the Arrow ones.
And Synapse is the second best home video company. Well, it is currently the best home video company located in Michigan, but overall it was the second best. Anchor Bay, rest in peace, was first.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it's just I don't know. I just never got one. I don't think and it's not that I looked at their stuff and was like, oh, that's crap. I think it's just I've never really familiar with them. So if they release something that someone else put out too, I just always got the other one.
So that's something I kind of want to talk about as well. So this year we saw from Vinegar Syndrome the Offering or the Lamp. The next month or this month we're going to see X-Ray and Schizoid released. How do you feel about former Shout Factory titles coming into Vinegar Syndrome?
I'm okay with it because a lot of them I have never seen before, and it seems like a lot of those older Scream Factory ones are getting pricey to get. I think it's kind of weird that they are kind of pairing them up the same way Scream Factory did, but maybe there's a reason for that I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm okay with it. I just like that they're getting attention to be remastered into 4K because if I'm going to see them, I would rather see them the best way that I can.
I agree with that part. What's killing me is, and we've talked about we've talked about this before about how Vinegar Syndrome is pivoting. What I loved about them as a company, and I still do, is they've released movies that have been ignored, or have never ever appeared on home video, and I feel like with this, it's what made them special is becoming a little less special.
Yeah, I can see that.
But
yeah, like a lot of the stuff is just, Vinegar Syndrome is the only place you're going to get it. But
I mean, look, I am happy that Reform School Girls is coming out, but I'd much rather have something that like an All-American Murder, which I never heard of before its release, and now I think my life is better off that I've seen that movie.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I'm finding those releases coming from Culture Shock now as a partner label with Girlfriend from Hell, which I have seen before, and The American Scream, which I had not seen before, are the kind of movies that I would have expected Vinegar Syndrome to release compared to The Lamp.
Yeah, and it does kind of. I mean, you've been with Vinegar Syndrome for longer than I have, but from what I've gathered, it kind of seems like, their original passion was like preserving film, so they weren't lost, and now it's just kind of, re-releasing stuff that's already been preserved. So it's kind of like you said, they are kind of getting away from their thing.
And which I think is a perfect segue, because when we started this, it was just to talk about Vinegar Syndrome movies, and don't get me wrong, we both love the films they release, and we're always going to be talking about them in some way, but we feel it's better off to open it to all exploitation films. And from that reason, we're going to be covering other labels as well. I think it'll make the show more interesting, and we won't run out of topics that way.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much out there that we can get to, that I'm excited to get to.
Yeah, I am too, because while home video is, in retail stores is growing less and less pervasive, we are in the midst of getting a lot of really cool stuff coming out. Like, well, the Godfather set on 4K. Like, I don't know if I'm going to buy that $139 one. I don't think I will, but it looks so freaking cool.
Yeah.
Even like all the steelbooks you still find at Best Buy, they're at least they're still investing that in stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I always find that interesting that, companies like Best Buy, and I think Target still does them. Their movie section is shrinking and shrinking because they feel like people aren't buying physical media anymore, but they're still putting time into collectible steel books. So, it's kind of like, do you think that people aren't buying it, or do you?
I think people are still buying physical media in smaller amounts. But I mean, you go into a Best Buy. I mean, the reason they carried movies was you got your new TV, you bought a new DVD, Blu-ray player. Oh, you need stuff to watch on it.
Yeah.
And while Best Buy still carries stuff, it's basically just the release of the moment, which in a way is smart because that's what people are going to want to buy.
Right.
They're not going to want to buy a copy of Superbad until it comes out on 4K.
Yeah, I do miss those days though. I used to go to Best Buy, probably like late teens, early 20s, and every weekend I'd go up and down every single aisle and pick like 5 movies. And it's just, you go in there now and it's, oh, here's one. I got it.
Last week I had a show up in Baltimore, and a fellow comic and we drove up together, and he wanted to leave early because there was a casino in this gigantic mall right outside of Baltimore. So while he was gambling, I decided to walk around the mall, and I went into an FYE. I haven't been in one of those in probably a year.
Yeah.
And I'm there, and I'm just looking through the shelves, and I'm like, oh, this would be cool to buy. This would be cool to buy. And then I remembered I don't buy stuff at FYE because they're so fucking expensive.
Right. Yeah. I don't think we even have one up here anymore. I haven't even seen one in forever.
That sucks.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, I was right after my back started feeling better. I was driving, and I saw a video store. I was so excited to see a video store.
Mm-hmm.
I should have Googled it before I went inside. But porn video stores still exist.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We've got plenty of those still.
I don't understand. Out of anything, you can stream all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one right down the road. Actually, it's got private viewing booths and everything.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
It's very surprising
that people have private viewing booths when they have the internet at home.
Yep.
So let's start talking about Drop Dead Fred, a movie that was originally supposed to be released by Synapse, and then Vinegar Syndrome picked it up after Synapse ungraciously lost the rights to it because of we're guessing because of Cruel Jaws. I will say I did see Drop Dead Fred in the theater, and it's because I'm a huge Rick Mayall fan. He starred on a show called The Young Ones, Bottom, The New Statesman, the British comic strip, the British version of Saturday Night Live, where him and Ade Edmondson created this amazing 2 characters called the Dangerous Brothers. Like, Rick Mayall is my comedy hero, and when this movie came out, I loved it. And I think I saw it on VHS again. I loved it. When I watched it, it was my second favorite release in this batch of movies from Vinegar Syndrome. But my love of this movie has completely and utterly diminished.
Yeah, that's something I want to talk about because I think I'm kind of the same way. When I was a kid, I loved it, and I remember just watching it over and over again all the time. I thought it was hilarious, and this time watching it, I'm just like Fred is like annoying.
No, Fred is an asshole. But I did learn something. 'Cause I was doing some research on the film that when this movie was originally written, they wanted Tim Burton to direct it and Robin Williams to star in it, and I do believe that there's another Earth in the multiverse where that movie exists, which meant 9/11 would never happen. George W. Bush wouldn't have been elected president. Trump never got elected president. None of the stuff that's happening in the world today happened, all because Tim Burton and Robin Williams were in Drop Dead, directed and starred in Drop Dead Fred.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. And I kind of touching on that. I watched some of the special features, and they were talking about there was a sequel completely in the works, and like Jim Carrey was like all about it and was signed on to play the role of Fred. I was like, oh, that'd be interesting also.
Why wouldn't they have gotten Rick Mayall to reprise his role of Fred?
I don't know. I don't know if it was. I don't know. I don't think they touched on that, but
Well, yeah. So let's go into the plot. This story is about a girl played by Phoebe Cates who had a really mean mom. She had an imaginary friend, and her mom locked the imaginary friend in his Jack in the Box. She got married to Tim Matheson, and when she was older, Tim Matheson constantly cheated on her, did not want to be married to her. She went home, or she lost her job, had to move back in with her mom, rediscovered the Jack in the Box, opened it up, Drop Dead Fred came and wreaked havoc on her life until the movie ended.
so just right off the bat, I want to ask, do you agree with that plot synopsis there?
What do you mean, do I agree with it?
I mean, do you think that that's like what actually happened in the movie?
I don't know. It was obvious that Phoebe Cates was having a mental breakdown.
Right.
And Drop Dead Fred was the visualization of that breakdown.
Right. So yeah, it's like, as a kid watching this, it's kind of like, this like fantasy world of imaginary friends. And as a kid, you're like, at least I was led to believe that like, Fred is a real being that only Phoebe Cates can see. And, he's actually doing all these dirty deeds. And, but like watching it now as an adult, it seems it's, like you said, more of a story of like, just mental illness. And I don't know, she's like hallucinating from trauma and doing all of these like violent outbursts herself. Is at least what I came away with it from watching it recently.
So here's my take. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna give you two point of views. When I watched it when I was younger, and I think I was still in college when this came out. It's to hold on to your childhood. Is to never. That was the thing I took it. Hold on to your childhood. It's okay to be a little immature. And when I watched it this time, the movie became it was a really depressing movie of this woman who had whose entire life went into the shitter. And to cope with it, she brought back her childhood friend, and everything that they did was to help with the aggression that she was feeling. And unfortunately, it wasn't a funny movie. I think a lot of this was because the director was rewriting it as they were making the film.
Mm-hmm.
And was this his only English film?
I think it must have been, because I was looking up what else he had done, and I did not recognize any of them. But yeah, I mean, it looks like it.
And I think that might have been a problem. Not to say, that foreign filmmakers are bad, because they're not. It's just that this vehicle in particular went from an A-list director like to Tim Burton
mm-hmm.
to this guy, who for American audiences was unproven. And I imagine the pressure of having a hit and making a movie for basically the largest audience in the world is a very daunting task.
Right. Yeah.
And his goal to make however the script was into a perfect movie obviously diluted the film to a point where a lot of things probably should have been rethought.
Right. Yeah. And that's where I kind of think that, like, maybe he was making a different movie than than we were taking it in as, because in the other special features they were saying that like, yeah, when this movie came out, the studio was thinking like, yeah, this is a movie for like, 10 to 12 year olds, and other people were like, no, this is like early teens, and the director was saying something like, no, this is a movie for like early 20s. So it's kind of like, I don't know, rewatching it again, I can kind of see that, because I do think that it has a lot of kind of deeper meanings or deeper thoughts into it.
Well, I mean, Rick Mayall, Fred is a character kids would love. He's the cat in the hat. This movie is the cat in the hat, but instead of kids, it's an adult.
Right.
And one thing that it kind of skirted around, but really never came out and said, Fred is evil.
Right.
Fred is an evil character. Not evil as in, oh, I'm going to kill everybody. Evil as in, do whatever you want as long as you're having fun. And, I mean, let's face it, she sunk her best friend's boat.
Yeah.
And I never noticed it before, but Carrie Fisher's character was having an affair with her boss, who was a good 40 years older than her.
Yeah.
Yet he delivered one of the best lines in the movie is, I didn't have childhood friends. I just had wet dreams.
Yep. Uh-huh.
which basically says a lot about his character, is that he had no imagination, and he brags about having wet dreams, which is something nobody should brag about. What did you do last night? I had a nocturnal emission. Was it fun? I don't remember it. I woke up in a sticky situation. Pun intended. No.
So yeah, I just feel like, so another thing that I wanted to talk about is Phoebe Cates' mom. Like in the plot description there, you said that like, her mom was a bitch or whatever. But I feel like after watching this again, I'm on the mom's side.
So, to be fair, Marsha Mason was basically playing my mom on the screen. I also had imaginary friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, not like Fred, but no. She reminded me of my mom, just really tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can like kind of see in the movie, at least, like I can see why she is, like, the mom is having this like huge breakdown. Like, obviously we're kind of given that nugget of like their marriage isn't going well, but on top of that, their daughter is like like smearing mud all over the house, and just doing all kinds of stuff. And then even especially as an adult, when she has Phoebe Cates come live with her again, like, adult Phoebe Cates is like rubbing dog shit in the living room. So it's like, as a parent, you've got to just be like, you have to have had it at that point, like throughout a life of doing that.
Now to be fair, Fred brought in magical dog shit. Because there's no way the little amount that he brought in would have spread that much into a living room.
Right. Yeah, there was something there though that she was scrubbing.
Oh no! When you look at it, he got it all over the floor and and every piece of furniture. I would love to see how this would have played out as a horror movie.
Yeah,
because the character of Fred could have been. It would have been a great horror franchise of your kids' imaginary friends basically having them do their bidding for them.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and I think that's something that is just ripe to even be taken on now. I mean, I originally thought that maybe there wouldn't be an audience for this type of movie now, but I think done in a way that could be more of a, of a horror aspect, it would definitely work.
where well, yeah, I think so too. But the thing is, so many horror movies go straight to Netflix, Hulu, Peacock.
Right.
This would be a movie that would need to be seen. Like, it would need to go to a theater. Like, a major studio would need to release it and get behind it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it just becomes another horror film. And
I think the scariest part of this movie to me was the super uncomfortable age difference between Phoebe Cates and her husband Charles. When they were doing like the flashbacks to when they were like happy, and like Phoebe Cates like ran up behind him and like gave him a hug from behind and was helping him shave. I was getting some real like father-daughter vibes, and even just the way she was dressing as an adult kind of made me feel like, you know, there was that mental illness aspect, and she was not.
Well, to be fair, Phoebe Cates was like around 30 when this movie was made.
Yeah.
she takes really good care of her skin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, last thing I saw her in was in the movie The Anniversary Party with Jennifer Jason Leigh, and I think Jennifer Jason Leigh actually directed that film, and she still looked as good as she did in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah. Maybe it was just like they were still just like dressing her up in like little girl dresses. I
mean, it was the 90s, so that's what people I think wore back then.
Ugh.
And also, yeah, her dad left. Of course, she had father issues.
Yeah.
Now, I do assume, though, that her and her father still had a relationship because he seemed like a good dad who just couldn't be around the mom.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess they never really get into that if he's still around in any aspect.
No, I didn't watch any of the deleted scenes, so I don't know.
I did, and they weren't. There was nothing in there because I watched them because I feel like I remember the ending being different when I was a kid.
No, that was the same movie.
Was it?
Yeah. So let's just say I want to go on the acting. As bad as this movie was, every one of the main characters was phenomenal in their role. I mean, Phoebe Cates was great. Carrie Fisher played basically a more comedic version of her role in When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
The scene where she thinks she's strangling him, I still think is hilarious. Rick Mayall, he carries this movie. I think they let him do what he did on The Young Ones, where he was overtly obnoxious, as was Fred. I think the director should have had him give a more subdued performance, but I think he was great. And
did you say the director did, or
I think the director should have made him
a
more subdued performance. Back in the 90s, I'm sure in the early 2000s, if you wanted an asshole character, Tim Matheson was the only person you called.
Yep.
And Marsha Mason was great as her mom. It was the movie was had a great cast, but the script it just didn't work. This is such a heavily flawed movie. And
another character I liked was I think his name was Mickey. Her like real friend that she grew up with, the blonde guy.
Yeah, the guy who was on ER.
Yeah.
and
I really liked
and season 1 of a show that does need to be re-released on DVD because I can't find my copy of it. Men Behaving Badly.
Oh yeah, he was
with my arch enemy Rob Schneider.
I was going to say that I really liked the scenes that they were together because, you have Fred doing all this, especially like the restaurant. I think was like my favorite scene of the movie when Phoebe Cates apparently was her idea to, not show Fred when she had the glass and had the dishes and everything. I thought that part was awesome. But I really liked the Mickey character being there because it's kind of like, he's going through his divorce and trying to find, his way now. And he sees Phoebe Cates is kind of just like, fuck it attitude. And, he gets up, starts throwing plates and, I don't know. I just thought that part was kind of like refreshing in a way that, even though, things look so fucking disasterful for Phoebe Cates and she's dealing with Fred right now, someone else is seeing that and, having like a breakthrough moment kind of from it.
Yeah, I can see that. I just felt out of all the characters, while he was defined, he didn't appear in enough of the movie where he mattered.
He was in a lot of the deleted scenes.
Okay, I'll have to check those out.
Yeah,
but so I know we're kind of eventually, we're going to start talking more about Vinegar Syndrome. I think this movie is a major pivot for them as a company.
Right.
Because this is, I'm going to say this is the most mainstream thing they've released. I know they picked it up from Synapse, but I now wonder of how many more Universal titles are going to enter into their library.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was a weird one too, but at least for me, it was one of those movies that I was obsessed with as a kid and then just completely forgot about. So when I saw that this was one they were doing, I for one was super excited for it. Even less excited though after I watched it. But it is a pivot, but it's I feel like it kind of fits into a way of just like, I don't know, like the video store kind of pickup, because that's, I had never heard of this. I didn't see it in the theaters. I didn't know anything about it until I just randomly picked it up in a movie store one day.
I admit I went to see it on the Friday night it came out. Again, I huge Rick Mayall fan. And
when did this come out? 91. So yeah, you said you were in college. I was
9.
Yeah, I was 9. Or no, I was 8. I was 8.
Yeah, I don't know what year you were born. I was just guessing.
83.
No, it was. I think I remember where we saw this movie at. I think we drove down from Big Rapids, Michigan to a movie theater in Grand Rapids at that time was called Studio 28. And I remember the person I went down there with hated the movie. Yeah, let's just say I did not get laid that night. But all right.
Awesome.
I do think, again, I think there were so many missed opportunities. I think all the other imaginary friends should have played more into the film.
Yeah. So this was kind of like the last part of it that kind of like left me hanging is, so how do I explain this? So you're kind of like led to believe that like Phoebe Cates like creates Fred for herself, right?
Right.
And then there's kind of like glimpses into the movie where it's like, when Fred first comes back as an adult, does that whole speech where like, I was sent here because you're unhappy. I can't go home until you're happy again. So that kind of like says like, oh, there is like an imaginary friend headquarters where they send them out to people. And then at the end, go ahead.
Do you watch that cartoon on Netflix that John Mulaney and Nick Kroll do? I can't remember the name of it now. It's where they're all going through puberty.
Yeah, what is that? I can't remember what it's called either. Yeah.
And they have their hormone monsters.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Their imaginary friends are sent to lonely kids to help them.
Okay. So yeah, that's like when the ending happens, Fred is there with Mickey's daughter helping her out, and it's like, Phoebe Cates can no longer see him. It almost seems like Fred doesn't even acknowledge that he knows Phoebe Cates. So it was like the ending to me was a little confusing.
I don't think he did. Or the point is she didn't matter because that little girl was her mission. I thought that was the only thing in the movie that was really nicely foreshadowed, where he was saying when they met, at least I now have custody of my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And talked about the divorce, which means his daughter was going through a mental anguish all of her own, and Fred needed her. And at least with this time, if Phoebe Cates and Mickey stay together, which was heavily implied, was she would be more understanding to the daughter than her own mother was to her with Fred.
So I guess with that thinking, do you think Fred was playing like, double duty? Like, was he with that little girl at the same time that he was with Phoebe Cates? Because that would have been happening at the same time.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that was his next assignment.
Okay.
And he knows, and I think he knew she was there, because what would have been nice is when she was saying hi to Fred that there would have been an acknowledgement.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I blame that on bad filmmaking. All right. How many imaginary friends would you give this movie?
Going into it is going to be way different than coming out of it, but I think I'm going to, man, it's hard. I think I'm going to go down the middle and say 3.
I will do the same. It was, even though we have a scale of 5, so down the middle would actually be 2.5. we will round this up to 3 for each. So kind of sorted down the middle, but a little to the right.
Yeah. It was just I don't know, which I guess is a testament to it being kind of an interesting kind of film, is that it's, it was a completely different movie to me as an adult than it was as a kid. So it's,
yeah, no, it's true. It's kind of like when we talked about the scary of 61st. It was a different movie when you watch it the first time and when you watch it the second.
Right. Yeah.
And I like what you said. When you were the first time you watched it, you were more related to Phoebe Cates and Fred. Now that you're adult, you relate to the mom.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Now that we're off the subject of this, I got to vent. I saw the new Scream on Paramount Plus.
Did you?
Yep. First of all, there were some brilliant kills in that movie. Some brilliant kills. What a shitty film.
I haven't seen it yet, but I kind of gathered by how quick it went to Paramount Plus and out of the theaters that
it's still playing up here. It's still playing as of last week, it was still playing the Regal by my apartment.
Is it? It's out up here.
Yeah, it never
the big.
Yeah, it stopped playing at AMC's like 2 or 3 weeks into it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the reboot sequel?
I don't know, because it's so is this one supposed to be kind of like how the new Halloween films are, like it's a direct sequel to the first one and we're supposed to ignore?
No, it's it acknowledges like Marley Shelton, who I think was in 4.
Okay.
Her character is reprised in here. Yeah, they acknowledge everything in this film.
Right. Well, with that the case, then I don't know. I guess it's like, it had seemed like, well, it was that each sequel was getting worse and worse, I thought, and then they pretty much just tuckered out. No one was interested anymore. So I think it's interesting that, what has it been, 20 years since the first one came out now?
25.
At least. Yeah. So I think it's interesting that they decided to revisit it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it could work with some of them, I guess, but.
Well, all right, let me ask you this.
It didn't work with Nightmare on Elm Street, but.
Well, the Nightmare on Elm Street wasn't a requel. That was a remake.
A reboot, yeah.
A reboot, yeah. If you could take any horror franchise and do a requel, the reboot sequel, which one would you which one would you do?
Oh, I was actually just thinking about this. And it was one that I was torn about because I had recently rewatched the original, and kind of like with Drop Dead Fred, I didn't love it as much as I used to, but Lost Boys.
Lost Boys would be brilliant.
Yeah, I would like force my wife to watch it like a month or two ago because I was like, I loved this movie. I haven't seen it in forever. You got to watch it. And we were watching it. I was like, this was the movie I was thinking about, right?
I think Lost Boys would be hard because Corey Haim was the heart and soul of that film, and he's dead. I mean, I guess if Jason Patric would do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I mean the two.
I'm sure Corey Feldman would. He's just put out a new like rap music video. I'm sure he's hurting for work. I'm
sure that guy has made for life unless he blew it all on hookers and coke.
Yeah.
But possibly. I think there was a point where all the hookers and coke he got were free.
Yeah.
But Lost Boys would be a brilliant reboot. I mean, you don't do the Frog Brothers. You just have Jason Patric returning to the beach and realizing that the vampires that wiped out his family are still there.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think all of them are still alive, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Except for Edward Harriman is dead, though.
You could have the sax guy come back.
No. It's been a hot minute since I've seen that film. Every day I hope it's going to be announced on 4K for a definitive version. But no, I love the original Lost Boys, and I was so excited about the sequels until I realized they were direct to video, and they just weren't any good.
What would be yours?
That's a really good question. I would have to get rid of the two sequels that came after the original is Ginger Snaps.
Okay.
I love the first movie. I think the second one is shit, and the third one makes the second one look like the best movie ever made. But if there could be a requel that reboots it, for the social media age of, I can just imagine kids these days going out purposely to get bit by werewolves and chronicle it on social media.
Like TikTok challenges.
Actually, we've come up with two brilliant movies here today. We should just fucking write them. No, but I mean, that's what kids would do. Oh, you mean I have all these powers now?
Yeah.
And they would just do werewolf fights.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Fuck, we
what was that movie that the kids got like superpowers and
Chronicle,
yes. I thought that, like, I watched that and I thought that would have been amazing turned into a franchise kind of. I thought it was I growing up I loved Dragon Ball Z, and I felt that was like the way that was shot and the way that their powers were utilized. I was like, this is probably the closest I'll get to like an actual Dragon Ball movie, even though it wasn't. Because the other one doesn't exist to me.
Be careful what you wish for, because there was a time in my life where I prayed so hard that there would be that comic book movies would exist in a cohesive universe where every film meant something and led up to something bigger. And then we got the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I'm like, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah. There's some good out of it, though.
Yeah. No, there is. It's just you realize eventually a shared universe like that is going to implode on itself. Much like I think a lot of people right now, like, all right, I'm kind of going to go back to the beginning of when we were talking about Thriller, is that I think we're at the beginning of seeing stuff about Vinegar Syndrome where people are going to start turning away from them as a company.
You think so?
Because they have gotten too big. And I don't think that's a bad thing, because they are still releasing films. I can't use the word quality because let me put it this way. They are doing quality releases of films that might end up just in a Mill Creek box set. So they are doing good stuff like that, but I think for every release that they strays from their original mission, they are going to lose the fans that got them there in the first place. And those are the guys, I'm going to use the word guys because it's mostly men, who support this company would be the ones who would continue to support it. The people who are just coming for, oh my God, I got to get this collectible slipcover.
Right.
They won't be around long term because once the collectability wears off, they'll go somewhere else.
So do you think it's something that's happened just in the past year or two, or?
I can't answer that. I think for everybody it's a certain thing. For me, it was all the partner labels.
Okay.
But
yeah, because I saw that for some people it was, they got rid of the what was it, like the exploitation or the adult subscription. Yeah.
Look, that one I was disappointed. I mean, I collect the Peakorama titles because that's what brought me to Vinegar Syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
But the other movies are what kept me. And that's what will always keep me is every month there's still at least one like Hard Rock Zombies. I have never seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. I'm really excited about this month coming up.
I'm excited that we're getting Reform School Girls.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something I mean any label could have released because I think it's MGM, but we're getting it, and we're getting probably what will be the definitive version of it.
Right.
Speaking of definitive version, next week we are moving away. We are going to be discussing from Scream Factory the 4K of Alligator.
Yes. Really excited. I feel like I just looked into this, but are there like famous people in this? Did I see something with like George Clooney and other people, or am I thinking of a different movie?
You know what? It's been so long since I've seen it. let me double check. Alligator 19. Robert Forster.
Okay, he's kind of.
He was in Jackie Brown and
yeah, he's famous-ish. So yeah, this was not what I saw then.
Oh, Henry Silva. Those might be the most popular people in the movie. It might have been Alligator 2.
It might have been because I just looked up and thought that it might have been a movie called Crocodile, but it was definitely not. So yeah, maybe it's Alligator 2.
Alligator 2, The Mutation, which does have a larger. It has Joseph Bologna, Dee Wallace, Richard Lynch, Steve Railsback, and a bunch of other people who you don't know, including Ray Bickle as older cop.
Nice. Yeah, I have no idea what I had seen then.
You know what? Let's find out. Let's end the show by solving a mystery. So no one in our audience is waiting a week to find out.
I just found it.
What?
It is. That can't be right. The 2020 film Grizzly 2 Revenge is what it is.
With George Clooney?
George Clooney, Laura Dern, Charlie Sheen.
Who? What?
Oh, okay. So here it says this sequel to Grizzly was left unfinished after production wrapped prematurely in 1983 and was not officially released until 2020 through a bootleg work print version, though a bootleg work print version had been in circulation for some years prior to this. So who scooped this up? Was it Severin? Severin must have completed the film and released it.
Well,
I think that was Severin, wasn't it?
Good for them. Good for them. I'm right now mad at Severin because I still have not got a shipping notice of Don't Go in the House, Stone, Delirium, and my Caligula exploitation box set.
I guess, go ahead.
I'm to the point where it's like, guys, when? I know there's not as many orders for this as there was for Black Friday.
So going off of that and kind of the announcement we made about kind of branching out, what are some other titles that, or some labels that you're interested in that you want to take a look at?
Well, I mean, there's always like Arrow, Severin. If Synapse does release something good, I'm sure we'll talk about that. Cult Epics, Umbrella out of Australia. So again, it's all stuff that we both have to have. Kino has been releasing a ton of good stuff.
Yeah.
But just as long as we can both watch the movie, I don't care what label it's from.
Right.
Even Warner Archives has good stuff.
Yeah. I had I know I brought this up in a past episode, but the Error 4444 label, I think they're working on their third release now, but I had mentioned it was like some super weird Cat 3 stuff, and I don't think you were interested in that at all when you looked them up.
I picked up about a month ago a category film 3 called Sex and Zen, which I watched a few times back in the 90s when I was living in Atlanta, because we had this amazing video store in Little 5 Points that was like this little hole in the wall, but they had their whole wall of category 3 films. And I remember, all right, so this was a movie about a guy who got his tiny pecker replaced by a horse pecker, and he would go have sex with women, or simulated sex as in category 3 films. And I remember thinking it was a good film, and then when I watched it again, I didn't realize it basically was just porn without the porn. And I'm like,
yeah, it's
11 o'clock at night. I'd rather watch something stupid.
So what do you think about all of the like Hong Kong action that's been coming out? Any interest in covering some of that?
Fuck yeah. Well, I mean, I think at some point we'll take a look at disc at a time at the Arrow set once I can finish undusting all the discs in that set.
Yeah. Yeah, and then one other one that I have been like really loving, but obviously I don't think it fits with us, is the Paramount Presents. I've been like loving those releases. The
ones I've been picking up, I've loved.
Yeah.
But I just have Elizabethtown, Pretty in Pink, and Bugsy Malone.
Yep. Yeah, so I guess, for the viewers, if there's something they want us to check out, let us know.
And if you would like to join us in the third seat, we miss Oliver, who right now has discovered a way to go into the space-time continuum, and he's lost. But when he gets back, he'll have stories to tell, and he'll be back with us.
Yes.
If he escapes the space-time continuum.
Yep. Yeah, anyone interested, let us know, and we'd love to discuss one of these movies with someone random, different point of view than ours.
As long as it's not too different from mine.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
No problem. we will be back next week, next Sunday evening, with a whole new episode. But next time we're gonna talk about Alligator, and then we will resume. You know what? I think it should be every other week, a Vinegar Syndrome movie, and then another one.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think at some point we talk about Siege. If you haven't seen that,
I do. I ordered a big order through Diabolic, and Siege is in there, and I made the mistake of ordering it with a bunch of pre-orders, so I think I'm getting it end of April.
I hope so. So. Siege is a really good movie. Before we go, we do this all the time. What movie would you recommend as a double feature for Drop Dead Fred?
I mean, there's a lot. I guess kind of a recent one that might be a stretch, but as I was watching it, I was kind of getting the imaginary friend vibe, kind of, is Malignant.
Huh.
Could be a...
That's interesting. Actually, that's a really good one. My pick would be the Babadook.
Yeah, that's good too. Babadook.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just so because I like Babadook.
Yeah.
I wish I had a pet Babadook. We could go together wearing
Not too
top
late.
hats. All right, we will be back next week. Hey, like our Facebook page, Grindhouse Chic on Facebook. Do we have Instagram yet? Do we have Instagram?
I don't think so. I'm in the works for a letterboxed for us.
Yeah.
Where I'll put all of our reviews on there for the movies we've watched, but I'll post that when it gets made.
And hit subscribe. Hit subscribe. If we get 100 subscribers, I am going to sing that song from Champagne and Bullets. I might even try to get the star of that movie on here to sing it along with me.
Ooh. Pressure's on.
Yeah, we need 100 subscribers for me to do that. All right, until next week, I'm Robert Schneider, and with me as always is Matt Armstrong, and Oliver is in the Lost in Space-Time Continuum.
Yep.
All right, we'll see you guys next week. Yes, that we will go and rescue him in a future episode.
Yep.